Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to Lost in the Wasteland, my weekly show where I get to learn a little bit more about somebody else's perspective on movies. And this time, two people's perspective on movies, as I have the awesome opportunity to be talking to the co-writers, co-directors, and co-stars of Extremely Unique Dynamic. We have Ivan Long and Harrison Shu. Thank you both so much for coming on.
Thank you for inviting us.
Having us.
Absolutely. And before I start with my questions, if both of you just want to introduce yourselves a little bit and maybe tell the audience a little bit about your film.
Okay, I'm Ivan Long, and this is Harrison Shu, and we are the actors, directors, filmmakers of Extremely Unique Dynamic.
The movie is a meta queer Asian stoner coming of age romantic dramedy about two best friends making a movie about two best friends making a movie about two best friends making a movie. It's their final weekend together, and to memorialize that, they make a triple meta film.
Awesome. And it's a that was a very fun way of describing what this film is. And I fortunately got a chance to check out the film and enjoyed it quite a bit. And it's such a unique and interesting experience getting to check out this film. But how did this come about for both of you putting this film together?
Yeah, Ivan and I have known each other for over 10 years. We met in acting class and we've been friends for a while. And I was about to move from LA to Vancouver, and it was our final few months to do something together. And we had actually just come off of working on the marketing campaign for this movie called Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Yes.
With my character in the movie, I am a film marketer. Have you seen Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey? Do you have a disc of it?
I don't have a disc of it, but I have seen Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and the second one
Oh, and
uh,
so,
as
okay.
well. So
Awesome. We're working on Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare right now. But yeah, it's something that it was super fun. It was our first time working together professionally, and we had so much fun that we were like, let's just make our own movie.
which and that's an awesome experience. And like you can tell by watching the film that this is the kind of film that like these are two people who really know each other and had the opportunity to make a film. And it's close knit, it's interesting, it's completely going for the concept and fully embracing especially the meta layer upon meta layer upon meta layer of the whole entire thing. But I
Mhm.
guess what was the biggest thing that stood out to you, you enjoyed most about your experience making this film?
For me personally, I just really enjoyed working with Harrison. Like we never had an opportunity to actually work together for the last 10 years that we've known each other, and we've always wanted to. But for some reason, when like we've always went for the same parts, but we've never been able to actually closely work together. And Harrison was going to move away, and we wanted to do something before he moved to Canada, like in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could imagine that opportunity getting to work with your friend and being able to spend that time and put something wholly together, the two of you must have been a really awesome experience. Now, this is obviously a pretty unique and interesting little comedy for sure and very personal. I guess what's the biggest selling point that you feel like if you're going to try to convince somebody you should check out Extremely Unique Dynamic, what's that big selling point you would give?
If you want to see something extremely unique and dynamic, no, I feel like for us, we really wanted to present our film as something that, while it is indie, and it does touch on a lot of things like Asian American identity and queer representation, at the end of the day, it's still a comedy and it's a fun time. And we feel like the film is accessible to a lot of different people. And I feel like it can be inspiring to a lot of filmmakers who are in the initial steps of making that first film. Because for us, we kind of just took a big swing and went for it as our first film, and we've been lucky enough to see success out of it. But I feel like a lot of filmmakers hold themselves back because they want it to be super perfect and they overthink it. And I think hopefully people see our film and rediscover their joy of, or not rediscover their joy, not that they lost it, but it just like just reminding themselves like of the fun of the filmmaking process and using that to hopefully leverage another film or their first film.
Yeah, because like remember when we were kids and we would have like our phones or like our parents' camera and we would just like run around, take a video, and then edit it together and show our friends and family and like we had such a great time. Like sometimes I mean like working in the entertainment business, like you kind of forget that and you kind of see it as 100% like deep, dark art, super daunting. And we forget that like hey like if we just go for it and just do what we love and uh see what happens like what could actually happen and hopefully that could like someone could take away from that and want to make their own movie.
Absolutely. And some good takeaways there. Obviously, the first one, the title sells itself. If you want something that is extremely unique and dynamic, this is a fun film to check out. And I think one of the most interesting and inspiring things from my experience checking out your film is this is the kind of like simple setup of you can make a film with such a like limited location and just two people really committing to a story and a dynamic and everything, and you make so much out of such a simple setup. And I think that was one of the most interesting and fun things about watching this. And obviously you can see your chemistry and dynamic with each other so much. But at this point, obviously the film's going to be rolling out. So I guess if you could give a little bit of perspective, like where can people check out your film?
Right now, we are having our theatrical week in LA. We're playing at the Lemley NoHo between now and January 16th. We have further screenings in other markets that we're still figuring out, but some that we do know are we're playing in San Francisco on January 29th. We're playing in New York on January 27th, and we will be on digital platforms on January 29th as well. So anyone can see it on iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, Vudu. And I know I'm just like admiring once again admiring everything behind you, but we also like we printed out 100 limited edition Blu-rays. And we sold a lot of them and donated all that to the LAFD with everything going on in LA. But we still have a few left over, so we can ship you one as well and add to your collection.
Awesome. We'll chat about that. For sure. But awesome. And if you get an opportunity to check it out in the theater, I'm sure that would be a lot of fun. I feel like not a ton of comedies get a chance to get like that big theatrical experience, and there's nothing as good as sitting in a theater laughing with a whole bunch of people for sure. But obviously if you're not in the big city areas, make sure to check it out on digital when it comes around you. And the film is nice lean runtime too. And in a world where I'm sure a lot of people are going to be checking out The Brutalist at some point this week, you could check this out 3 times within that amount of time. So, but hopefully you all get to check out Extremely Unique and Dynamic. And now we're going to dive into some questions to get to know Ivan and Harrison a little bit more. And this is everybody's sarcastically favorite question to be asked about film. What's your favorite film?
Go for
Whoever
it,
would like to
Harrison.
go first.
Um, I feel like I need to explain this with a disclaimer. So before Letterboxd was a thing, I had my own Excel spreadsheet of every single movie I've watched ranked in order uh, of like one through whatever. I'm at like 1,500, I think. And they're ranked by acting, by cinematography slash writing and entertainment value. And then I take an average of all that to get a score. I base it off of how I felt in the moment when I watched the movie.
Mhm,
So my number one film on that entire list is Million Dollar Baby. And the reason is because I watched it when I was like 12. And I remember it being such an incredible experience in the theater. And the first time that I cried in a movie, it just like really broke me as like a 12-year-old. And I was like, wow, movies can make me feel things.
mhm.
Uh, and it's always been at number one. I haven't watched it since then. And everyone tells me if you watch it again, I don't know if it would be your number one, but I'm like, maybe I don't want to watch it again and just like have that feeling of what I felt when I watched it. So that's why I had that disclaimer, but it is technically my number one film.
I'm a huge fan of Million Dollar Baby as well, and that was I remember because I'm a big fan of the Oscars and have had Oscar parties for years at this point. That was one of my earliest memories of like sitting down and actually watching the Oscars was that
Yeah.
ceremony when Flynn and everybody else won pretty big for that film. But I just can't imagine being in a situation going in thinking, "Oh, this is going to be like the next Rocky."
Yeah.
And then no, it's not. Having that completely ripped out from under you and actually dealing with some really heavy themes
Yeah.
and ideas. But how about you, Ivan?
I think I'm the worst at answering these questions, but I think the first thing that comes to mind is Legally Blonde. For something about like a nice hero's journey of like, oh, like people underestimate this person and oh, you can't get into this because you're not you don't come off that smart. And then she gets into Harvard, and then everyone says like, "Oh, you're not going to graduate or you're not going to make anything." And then she does, and like I just love seeing that, and it makes me think, "Oh, wow, if she can go to Harvard from a fashion degree to to this, I can do anything." So it always just motivates me, and I love rewatch value. So like I really put that uh like that aspect very highly in my like categories of like favorites. So and like it's something that you can just put on, be comfortable, and it feels really nice and familiar, and that's probably why I like it.
We'll definitely be getting into a question similar to that idea in a little bit, but I definitely have a soft spot for the like late 90s into early
Yeah.
2000s comedies growing up at that point. And Blonde is definitely one of those kinds of films that has plenty of laughs, and Reese Witherspoon's so committed to that role for sure. And it's such a fun film. Now, turn back the clock a little bit. What are your earliest memories of going to the movies for the both of you?
I
Uh,
think. Oh, go for it, Harrison. Your
oh,
turn.
you already started. You open your mouth. Go.
Okay. I think it was one of the Pokemon movies like a long time ago. Like so like I just remember watching some Pokemon movie and I just started crying and crying and crying and I'm like, "Oh my God. Wow, this is my $1 million baby." Like I didn't know that I could cry from just animated characters slapping each other.
I'm imagining it was the first one where Ash died and turned into stone, and then Pikachu cries because I'm sure that made a lot of kids cry at that point.
It might have been. I don't want to date myself, so maybe it's this one, or maybe like it was like one like uh 7 years ago or something like that when I was like a spry young 7 year old. I don't know.
I had the first three Pokemon films on VHS when they came out. Still play Pokemon, so there you go. Sometimes we just don't grow up. How about you, Harrison?
My earliest memory was watching The Mummy. My dad used to go to the movies all the time. He was like an immigrant and like I don't know, he just loved going to the theaters and he took me and my brother. I was like 6 at the time and my brother was 4. And this was a movie that we were definitely way too young to be going into. And it totally scarred me for the longest time from horror films because there's that scene, when the beetles are like crawling in his skin. I like that gave me nightmares forever as a 6-year-old. And I like couldn't watch a horror movie until college. I was like, I refuse to watch horror. Like I can't. And
Mm.
then like I've now, grown to really love horror, but that was my earliest memory in a theater, just being like, wait, I actually haven't asked my dad about that. I should ask him sometime. Like, why did you take us to see The Mummy? That was like the worst idea.
I remember watching that on TV when I was like maybe 10 and scaring the crap out of me. Absolutely love that film to pieces now, but that was not a fun experience as a child because
No.
those scarabs are terrifying. And there's
Yes.
some pretty gnarly body horror in
Yeah.
that movie too at times. And there's a couple of jump scares where it's just like it's fun, it's swashbuckling old school adventure. But yeah, there's freaky moments. in
Yep.
the 1999 Mummy movie. So definitely a lot of fun. Now, let's start with you, Harrison. What's your favorite genre of film?
Ooh, my favorite genre. Um, as a viewer, I would say like the blockbuster genre. Like that's
Mhm,
why I go to the theaters. I feel like that's why so many people go. It's for that communal experience of just like seeing big explosions and like stuff
mhm,
like you can't really get at home. Like that, like I feel like that's what theatrical was made for. So, um, yeah, like I love seeing like anything like superhero, anything that's like big action. But then as like a writer, director, actor, I would say my favorite genres are coming of age
mhm.
dramedies. Like I just have a soft spot for those where like movies can make you laugh and cry at the same time.
Absolutely. Yeah, Endgame doesn't hit the same when you're sitting at home by yourself and not full of a theater of crying
Oh,
grown men.
of course,
Um,
at like 3
put that
a.m.
together.
because you had to get the 1 a.m. screening for opening weekend because everything was sold out, of
Yeah.
course.
Wild. How about you, Ivan?
Uh, I love quirky indie comedies. I love things like Napoleon Dynamite. I love Perks of Being a Wallflower. I love like Alex Strangelove, like things that like yeah, same similar with Harrison, like something that makes you laugh and cry. Actually like I watch a lot of more like Asian cinema, Asian movies, Asian dramas. So like I don't really know how to answer that one just because like when you watch like like a Korean movie, you laugh for the first third like big laughs and then like something happens and like it becomes extremely dark and extremely sad. If it's like it's such a easy way to just like ease you in a lot.
Hmm.
And I just really love like that genre mash, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. And like I feel like Napoleon Dynamite for a whole entire generation of people changed how people said certain words. Because, I can't say quesadilla
Oh,
the same way after Napoleon Dynamite. And you can't not ask your friends for their tots. Um, that was a special film. And it's so quirky and weird, but it's so much fun. And I think I think not enough people check out a lot of Asian cinema, and I'm lucky that I have a good connection with like Wellgo USA, who bring it over a lot of Asian films to the States, and getting an opportunity to check out a lot of like Hong Kong films and Korean films and stuff like that. It's a whole new world out there. So definitely could appreciate that. And like some of my favorite films from the past 10 years, like it's crazy to think that like The Handmaiden's like 9 years old at this
oh
point.
yeah. Oh my God.
Movie's wild, has everything.
It has
So
everything. It's
has
beautiful.
everything. Now, thinking about some of your favorite filmmakers, Ivan, who's your favorite filmmaker?
The only one that I can't say it's my favorite just because like I love so many of them, but the one that
Yep.
just popped up in my head is probably Craig Johnson. Like I love Skeleton Twins.
Mhm.
And again, I love Alex Strangelove. Like something about like uh seeing his films, it has such a groundedness, but there's also something very freeing about it, and it's so quirky in its own right as well. And yeah,
Skeleton Twins is a film that I haven't watched a whole lot of
Mhm.
times. I've watched it a few times, but like for some reason, I always come back to thinking about it
Right?
because like all three of the leads, obviously like Luke Wilson having to play the straight man in it perfectly, but like Kristen Wiig and Bill Hader just so incredible and singing
The karaoke
Jefferson
scene.
Starship together.
Yeah, it's so memorable.
Yeah, just so funny, but also there's a lot of emotion there too, and being able to balance those things. But how about you, Harrison?
At the moment, I would say Alex Garland.
Okay.
So I just built a home theater, and
Hmm.
one of the first movies I watched in it over the break was Annihilation.
Nice.
And it almost blew my place up. I felt like during that like climactic scene at the end where like she's like fighting that figure, like with all like the sound design and everything, I was like, I feel like everything's about to blow up around me. And I just remember that feeling in the theater when I watched it, just like that dread and like how like I don't know how loud everything was. So
Yeah.
like that is a movie like I need to see again right away.
Oh, Ex Machina is one of my favorite films. I absolutely love that film, and Annihilation was my favorite film from what was that 2017, 2018 when that came
Yeah.
out. And um that bear is nightmare fuel
Oh
and will
yeah.
never not be nightmare fuel.
Oh yeah.
Um and also the experience of watching a trailer and they have really interesting music in it and the disappointment of it not being in the film, but then you watch Annihilation and it is in the film, and that score is so strange and otherworldly and so effective. And I know I'm very excited seeing Alex Garland teaming up with Danny Boyle again
Yeah.
for the next 28. That when that trailer for 28 years later dropped, and it just like
Yeah.
it went from nobody thinking about it to one of the most anticipated movies for 2025, because
Yeah.
just that exciting and effective of a trailer for sure.
Yeah.
Now, thinking about it a little bit in front of the camera, but Harrison, who are some of your favorite actors or actresses?
Ooh. Um, one of my favorites is Woody Harrelson. I
Mhm.
just love his range and like he's just in so many fun movies I love. Like
Yeah.
Zombieland's like one of my favorites. But then like on the other end you have Edge of 17 where like he's so touching in it and I don't know, like I'd love to have a career like his where like he gets to play all these like silly comedic characters, but like also can do really serious
Hmm.
and yeah, I don't know. Like I just feel like his filmography is so fun.
He has such an interesting sense of humor, and you can fit it into so many different types of films. Because, like, oh, I love Edge of 17, and he's one of my favorite teachers in a movie. Like,
Yeah.
just his vibe. Like, he'd probably get in trouble
Oh
in real
yeah.
life talking that way to a student, but like, watching a movie, it's fun. And he could commit to something so silly as, you know, he's obviously having a lot of fun in Zombieland, or he could be somebody who's absolutely terrifying, like in War for the Planet of the Apes, and you're just like,
Yeah.
I hate you so much in this movie.
Yes.
And being able to balance all of those things, it's so impressive. And I'm a huge Coen Brothers fan, and even just him in a minor role in No Country for Old Men, he's legitimately funny, but you could sense like this is a dangerous person that you probably don't want to mess with, except
Yeah.
then he messes with the wrong, more dangerous person. But he just especially has a lot of interesting range. But how about
Yeah.
you, Ivan?
Oh, this is another question that's just super hard. So like I'm just gonna say the first one that comes to mind, and again, it's probably Bill Hader, just because like he has such a big range. Like I love people that are extremely funny, but also like that can really tap into like the dramatic side. And seeing him uh do Skeleton Twins and also then go into like another big box office comedy and then go into uh okay, it's slipping my mind, and I know that everyone's gonna hate me.
Very.
Yeah, Sperry.
Barry.
Do you see the judgment that's coming from Harrison's face right now?
Oh, I don't
Uh,
judge.
from to Barry, like where like it's so introspective and like dark and like just there's just so much complexities that he brings. I love, yeah, so that's why like I really love him and anyone that's similar to him. Anyone that can do comedy but also drama, like I just have such a deep respect for.
He's one of those actors too. Like he could do so many different things in film, but then he is legitimately just so funny as a human being.
Yeah.
And I think honestly, out of anybody, he's probably the actor I look up videos of the most, whether it's like just him being the president of Hollywood doing those roasts in his red track suit and his white white wig, or just his impressions and stuff like that. But I think Barry changed the game when it comes to Bill Hader and people realizing like this guy has a lot of range and also filmmaking talent too. And I'm really interested to see him taking on like a film or something like that for sure. Now, Ivan, I think you answered this a little bit earlier, but do you have besides Legally Bond, do you have another film that you feel like just rewatchable and you can literally just watch every day?
Matilda?
Nice.
I don't know why. I'm just saying the first thing that comes to mind. I just watched it on Netflix before it went away, and I'm like, oh wow, it really holds up.
Well, and I'm a huge Roald Dahl fan, and I think because like you're talking about the '90s Matilda, right?
Yes, you guys are so judging me for my taste right now. Oh
No,
my gosh.
Danny DeVito is legitimately a talented filmmaker and does some really magical things with that movie because there's not a lot of Roald Dahl adaptations, especially like recently, that really hit this side of Wes Anderson. Because I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure he was just made to make Roald Dahl adaptations. But like, I love that '90s Matilda movie. It's so charming and fun, and Crunchbull, just one of
Yeah.
the most evil, hateable villains in the history of cinema. And also that chocolate cake, though.
looked amazing. Like I dream about anything. Oh, also any movie that like shows like the actors or whoever is just eating and just like enjoying it, or just something that makes the food looks delicious. Like I just can't. I eat that up every single time.
There you go. No pun intended, or maybe it was. How about you, Harrison?
Happy Gilmore. Was a movie I watched the most growing up. Just all of the old Adam Sandler movies,
Hmm.
just like Billy Madison, Anger Management, 51st Dates. Like, I don't know, I just watched them all the time. And I don't know if it was because I had DVDs laying around or like they were just on TV all the time. But I just grew up on those movies. And like, speaking of making me cry, Click was like one of those where I was like, why am I crying in an Adam Sandler movie
Sandler
right now?
movie. I wish I could get paid for the amount of time that I've quoted Adam Sandler movies in my life, because then
Yeah,
I'd be in pretty good position.
yeah.
But Happy Gilmore is definitely one of them, and just the sheer fact that we're actually getting a Happy Gilmore 2
Crazy.
is both terrifying and so exciting at the same time.
Yeah.
Because like it just everything worked about it so well. Because like Adam Sandler obviously is completely committed to the bit, and just having Carl Weathers being so earnest in this movie, and then Shooter McGavin talking
Yeah.
about other top-notch movie antagonists. What an asshole. And he's so good. And they teased us all so bad when they had like that 20th anniversary tweet video that they did, and then we found out they were actually making another movie.
Yeah.
That's very exciting. Here's sending all the good vibes into the universe that Happy Gilmore 2 is actually good.
Please.
Let's do this. Now, Harrison, what's a film that you love that relates to another interest of yours?
Oh, I I play hockey,
Mm,
so Miracle.
oh,
I feel like I
nice.
watched a lot growing up too. It was just like one of those things on road trips that like the coaches would play in the bus because they're like, yeah, let's get hyped up. So I mean, I feel like that movie is like one of the best sports movies of all time.
Mm.
It's just so inspirational and so well done. And yeah, I would say like that's one that comes to mind right away.
Obviously very inspiring and also has Kurt Russell in it. So love that as well. How about you, Ivan?
I'm getting red because the first things that I started thinking about was Julie and Julia and 100 Foot Journey. Because I just love food and I just love seeing people cook food and like having the first bite and then being like, wow, my mind is blown from these flavors.
Mhm.
And that's an interest.
Hey, a lot of people love food. I think I love food a little too much. I wish I loved food a little bit less.
Me
I have
too.
a monthly movie club with my friends, and we just talked about Chef.
Yeah.
And that is not a movie you should watch when you're hungry, because
Hmm.
that movie will certainly make you hungry. And obviously, like John Favreau really dove into his passion for food with that film, and just everything looks absolutely delicious. And hopefully, we all find somebody in life that looks at us the same way Scarlett Johansson looks at him while he's making her that pasta in that
Hmm.
sequence. But obviously, like finding some of those films that like really, I think, I don't know if you've seen The Big Night. That was something that I really appreciate. It has Stanley Tucci and Tony Shalhoub as two Italian brothers who own a restaurant, and that's another one of those films with food that really stood out to me as well.
You might like
Now,
God of Cookery.
hmm,
God of Cookery, Stephen Chow.
nice.
Yeah.
Now, Ivan, who's a film character you feel like you connect with on a personal level?
Charlie from Perks of Being a Wallflower. I just feel like I am internally I'm very, very much like him. There's something about watching Logan Lerman doing Perks of Being a Wallflower, just like living life. Like I have no idea why, but I just relate to them so much.
That's also my answer to this question when I did these questions way back when when I first did this because I feel like that story and the character of Charlie really speaks to people that, weren't the most outgoing teenager in high school. And there's just something very empathetic about that film and how it shows how much certain like little connections with people can mean so much to somebody. And I know it took me until college to be able to have those connections. High school, I was a pretty solitary kid, but that definitely speaks to me as well. Now, how about you, Harrison?
See, like no one really comes to mind, but based off of what we were just talking about at Edge of 17, I had been acting as a kid. Like I started acting when I was 15. I kind of
Mhm.
took a break in college when I was figuring out what I wanted to do, and I thought maybe I wanted to be an agent. And I remember The Edge of 17 being such a transformative film for me at that time because seeing an Asian dude in a lead romantic coming of age role was super cool because I was like, you never seen that before.
Mhm.
Uh, so and like that character I saw so much of myself in, like that like kind of like I forget the character's name, played by Hayden Zito, but like he was just like kind of like figuring himself out. He was just like a nice dude and like he didn't
Yeah.
really like a regular dude. I don't know. It was just like, oh, why is he so regular? Like, what's wrong with him? Or like, what's his thing? Like, is he a martial artist? Or like, is he like a chess player? But like, he wasn't anything. He was just like a dude. I was like, wait, that's so cool.
He was a dude who loved movies and made
Yeah,
a fun little film too.
yeah. And
So,
I was like, I see myself in that. I was like, that's really cool.
and it's good that she wound up with him and not that jerk from the pet store.
I
Uh,
know.
for sure. Now, this could be a fun one, but I think both of you have been pretty open about your taste so far. But Harrison, what's a film that you love that you feel like would surprise people?
Oh, I love that would surprise people. Wait, can I pass while I pull up my movies list?
Sure.
Cheating.
It has been passed on to Ivan. What are you thinking?
Okay, a film that I loved when I first saw it, and I have no idea why this came up again, but I'm talking stream of consciousness. It's The Homesman, with Hilary Swank, if you know what that is.
I don't think so. I don't think
It's
I've
like
heard of
a
that.
Western. I don't watch Westerns. I have no idea why, but for
Mhm.
some reason, like that was the first one. I was like, what would surprise people? I was like, I think that like me choosing like a Western would be really, really interesting. Uh,
There you go. And it sounds like there's some Hillary Swank love going on today. Between that and Million Dollar Baby. So
I'm looking at my movie list and I'm like, there's some that are really high up here that like I don't know why, but like I just like Frozen is like my 31st favorite movie according to my list right now. And like
yep.
Zootopia is like my 32nd. And like there's something about I don't know, these like Disney films that really get me. And like I love musicals. I love just like I don't know, just like how much joy I get out of watching them. And I don't know, like Elsa, like actually, if I were to be any character, I'd want to be like Elsa. I don't know why. I'm like that. She's like such a badass character.
Yeah.
But
It was
yeah,
full blown superhero in Frozen 2 for sure.
yes,
Um, but well, it's hard to argue. Everybody literally saw Frozen.
yeah,
It's made so much money. And Let It Go was a thing for a long time.
yes,
It's so funny because my wife works with kids,
yeah,
and so like she knows what songs kids are obsessed with, and she's like, I can't listen to Let It Go ever again.
yeah.
But I feel like people unfortunately hate on Frozen a lot because of how big and popular and everywhere it was. But
Oh,
that really Ivan.
movie 43. Something about movie 43, it was so, I mean, the ratings was what it was, but like I saw some YouTube clips about it of it, and I'm like, oh, this is really, really funny to me. And that's a surprise.
So I want to know how much they had to blackmail more than half of that cast to be in more movie 43. I have to say though, Hugh Jackman completely commits to the fact that he just has a scrotum on his chin.
Yeah.
Just completely. And it's just wild to me. And was Jared Butler's a leprechaun at one point. I've watched that movie once and it was wild. I'm like, I don't understand how this movie got made, but it was. It
But
sure is.
if you have a little get a little stoned or like have a little drink and just be watching it again, I'm like, oh wow, that's really funny. But totally understandable, yes.
I think that takes a ticket today. But so my last question for both of you is what do you love most about movies? So Ivan, do you want to go first?
It really brings people together. You get to see a new point of view, a new perspective that you probably wouldn't have thought before. I feel like movies and just I mean film and TV in general, like if say if you live in a town where like you kind of live in a bubble where everyone thinks a certain way, having like uh that film that you watch and you're like, oh wow, I never thought about that. That's just amazing to me because it really opens up like your mindset and like what could be there and like why and it makes you think more. And it makes I feel like it can help you grow as a person too.
Absolutely. How about you, Harrison?
I think what I love about movies is they just make people feel things on a very
Mhm.
basic level. Like I was saying, like that was like one of the first times I remember like crying and like feeling things, and like I feel like movies are just so accessible to so many people, and like emotions are universal, and I love how such like this medium of art can do that. So yeah, I would just say like at a very base level, just like feeling things is great. And like I'm not a very emotional person like in
Mhm.
real life, but like when I'm watching a movie, I feel like I'm just like transported into a different plane of existence, which is really fun.
There you
Absolutely.
go.
I feel like it
Well, I appreciate both of you going through my gambit of questions here. I always like to wrap my show up by turning the chair around and having my guests ask me a question. So, do either of you have a question you'd like to ask the Wasteland reviewer?
What's the most embarrassing movie that you love but are scared to actually admit, and not the one that you say just for a scapegoat, but actually?
So, I remember getting invited to a free screening of Me Before You,
Mhm.
that romance film with like Amelia Clark and Sam Claflin, where it's like Sam Claflin's in a wheelchair and she's his caretaker and they fall in love with each other. I went into that movie being like, this is gonna be so stupid. And not gonna lie, she's really damn charming, and so's he. And it's so cheesy, but it was so funny because I went with my one of my best friends, Kevin, and we were just sitting there watching this movie. We're like, is this actually good? It's like I invited him because there was two passes to it and nobody else wanted to go. And I actually own it. It's somewhere over here. So like I do really enjoy that movie a lot. And I had the expectations of like, I'm not gonna enjoy this movie, but you know what? I got invited to a free movie. Um it's just and there's one moment in it that makes me laugh so hard because her boyfriend in it is Neville from Harry Potter. And this is like post glow up, so like Neville got hot after him starting off as like a little chunky kid from the first Harry Potter movie. And there's something Sam Claflin says to him that is one of the sickest burns I think I've ever heard in a movie. And it just reminded me of those old videos of like those thug life videos where like the fedora would like spin into frame the sunglasses. And it's just like it felt like one of those moments. I don't know. like is it extremely cheesy, especially by the end. It's like so manipulatively emotional, but like they're just too damn charming for me not to enjoy sitting there watching it. So that's probably mine. It's me before you.
Love it.
But thank you for your question, Ivan. How about you, Harrison?
I actually like that movie too.
Okay.
Um, it's I guess it's partially a question, but partially requires you to do something. If you feel comfortable, would you be able to turn around and pick a random movie blindfolded and then pitch it to us two on why we should watch it in like an elevator pitch?
Let's see. Lars and the Real Girl. Why should you watch this movie about Ryan Gosling falling in love with a sex doll? Because Ryan Gosling is an absolute gem. And he is, for what I could tell, a legitimately like weird person in real life. And this makes so much sense that he would do a movie like this. This movie is so emotional and so rich in just how human it is and whimsical and weird. Because, like you say, this is about a man falling in love with a sex doll, and you're just like, what? But there's a lot of pain underneath that. And Ryan Gosling is such a talented actor, and like films like this, like really shows that like he has a lot of range more than him just looking very handsome and charming in like action movies and stuff like that. So hopefully you check out Lars and the Real Girl. Have either of you seen this?
It's been on my list for a while, but this might have pushed me over the edge to actually watch
Well,
it.
there you go. The box says it's one of the year's 10 best films, too. So you should 100% listen to the box. A whimsical, funny, and moving film. So there you go.
Perfect.
Have you
Watch it.
seen it, Ivan?
I haven't seen it, so I'm definitely gonna watch it now.
There you go. See, you brought up quirky, weird little indie comedies and stuff like that. And this definitely has like that weight of sadness in there because Lars is a sad guy.
Hmm.
Um, generally, like you're probably a sad person if you wind up falling in love with a sex doll, and needing that human connection. But it handles that premise with a lot of care and tenderness for sure. So there you go.
Love
Now you both have something to check out for watch list. But Ivan and Harrison, thank you both so much for taking time to chat movies and to also chat about your film. Extremely unique, dynamic. Thank you both so much.
Thank you, Shane. That was so
for having
nice.
And all of you out there should go check out their film, especially when it comes out on digital and is accessible to everybody. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.